Hi, this is Anne-Marie Zanzal and Barb Rowlandson. We are so excited to talk to you today. This
Whoop, whoop.
is 5 things I wish I knew before I came out, or more correctly titled, 5 things we wish we knew before we came out. We're
Oh
very
my gosh.
excited.
Emery, I wish I had us 5 years ago when I was doing this to take me by the
Yes,
hand and lead me down the tunnel. It
yes.
would have been so much easier.
It would have been so much easier. And the thing is Barb is an amazing Barb and I work together to create our content together for Anne-Marie Zanzal Coaching. And Barb has made this unbelievably beautiful workbook. And if you haven't received the workbook yet and you would like to receive it, you can find it here on the link that is underneath the screen. And please sign up for it. If you did sign up for the workbook, then you should have received an email this morning from Anne-Marie Zanzal Coaching with links to the workbook and links to something else special. So, Barb is in charge of our housekeeping today. Can you give us a little housekeeping?
Well, yes, I can. And first of all, thank you very much, Emery, for including me in these live
No, it's
videos
fun.
because I have lots of experience from coming out too, just like you do. And if anything that we can say to help people who are facing the same challenges that we did, I love this, helping each other. So, housekeeping things. First of all, if you are watching live today and you would like to make comments, I really encourage you to please go to streamyard.com. I'm putting the link up right now. So, if you go to that link that I've just put up on the screen, and just register, like you put your name in there, then we will be able to see who is making comments. You don't have to do this. You can comment without doing this, but it's nice for us to be able to see who is participating. There is also a really important, I'm going to show you, well, you already showed the link to how to sign up for, uh, oh, no, that's your call. Okay. I'm all ready. Geez. Is this the right one? Nope. Is this the right one? Yes. Okay. I'll get it by Friday. We'll only have it down pat. So this is the link to go and get the workbook. And like Anne-Marie said, there's a ton of value in there. There's lots of great blog articles, but there's also some really important worksheets that are good for self-awareness and for helping you to sort of put some form to your thoughts and feelings around coming out. So I would really highly encourage you to go and get that workbook. It's free. I like free. Free's good.
I like free too.
Okay, great.
Today, the first thing that if anyone knows me and knows what I believe in, and also I know Barbara believes in this well, the very first thing you need to do is find community. I think yes. And I think a lot of you are aware of this because you are on Facebook groups. And it is great to have community that is on the internet. And it is great to build friendships within that community. Barb and I actually met on a Facebook group. We were both in a group called Lilies. It's no longer around, so I can say the name for you old timers. But we were in the Lily group way back when. And that's how we met each other. So it became a friendship. We've been friends now for several years, and that's how we got to know each other. And so one of the things that I really want to talk about today, and Barb can talk about this as well, is that so you're in the process of coming out. You may have a catalyst. And if you don't know what a catalyst is a woman that makes you realize that you might not be straight. You fall in love. You might have a great, relationship with her. But we really encourage you not to isolate yourself. So, Barb, can you say more?
Yes, absolutely. Whether or not you have a catalyst and you are starting to re-examine your sexuality, it is really, really important to cultivate friendships and community with, I think, not just other lesbians, but other late in lifers, because these are the people who see you. They understand. intrinsically what it is that you are experiencing. And if you do have a catalyst, it is important to be able to talk to other people about not only what you're experiencing, but not everything is appropriate to bring to your relationship. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's
Mhm.
not everything is a good thing to discuss with your partner, especially if you have a catalyst and you're pretty close to that time where you're coming out or just starting to, or have just started to re-examine your sexuality. If you do have a catalyst and you're in a catalyst relationship, she may or may not be able to understand what you're going through.
Right. And I think that's an amazing point. We will actually share an article that my wife wrote, Tonda McKay, because she was not my catalyst, but she was my first lesbian relationship. And there she really wrote very beautifully about how there were things that was so painful for her to hear. And also too, I was in the process of getting divorced when we first met. And so I was just like spilling my guts to her. And this is the thing, is when we're coming out later in life, a lot of times we're used to having women as friends, and there are girlfriends, not our girlfriends. And there are
Right.
girlfriends. And so we're like, we're used to talking to them about all kinds of things. But the difference is this is now a girlfriend, maybe a lover, maybe a future partner, and the things that you can discuss with them may not be absolutely everything. And so I always say something like this. If you were and most of our late in life lesbians understand this, if you were dating a man, would you say this to them? Now,
Right.
there are some things you can talk about, but really, I always encourage you to find later in life people that are going through divorces. Maybe this is their first experience with dating women, or maybe, second or third or whatever. And also, too, that you can talk to about your divorce, about your heartbreak over the loss of your relationship with your husband,
Yep.
over your heartbreak over the challenges with the kids right now. So it's always good to find community. And I find that most people in the queer community are very willing to listen and are very supportive of everything. I mean, occasionally you might meet a gatekeeper or something like that, but most people are really willing to listen. But sometimes it's not appropriate for um, to talk about some of these things with your girlfriend, just because of it's just too hard, and that's where oftentimes a lot of conflict comes from as well.
Sure. And I think the difference there too is objectivity.
Hmm.
Your girlfriend, your catalyst, she is not going to be able to be completely objective, but the friends that you cultivate within our community will be able to give you more objective advice and a point of view maybe that you or your partner had never even considered.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right? So just it's really about perspective and taking that emotional piece out of, like, that reactive piece when you have to share something. Like, I know with my catalyst, if I had said, "Oh, I'm missing this about my old life," because that happens and that's okay.
That's okay. Right.
That's okay. That is a normal thing to experience. Like, "Oh, I miss, the friendship of my ex-husband," or "I miss living in our old house," or "I miss my family all being together." That would have set her over the edge.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
And
get it.
but yeah, exactly. But those it doesn't mean those aren't valid feelings for you. They totally are. So you need to
Absolutely.
have somebody to be able to talk to about that kind of thing without hurting her feelings.
Correct.
Or yeah, and she
Right.
probably wouldn't be able to give you great advice about that anyway because her perspective is not the same as yours.
Well, and also too, like, we're going to move on in a second too, but this is always so much to talk about here. But the thing is that, like, my now wife, Tanda, it was so hard for her to see me in such turmoil, and she wanted to protect me, and which is a very natural instinct when you are falling in love with somebody and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
sometimes it doesn't give you the best perspective, right? So,
No. No, it
so
doesn't.
that's why we are so encouraging of finding community. So, first
So
place
where
to
do you
look,
find these people?
online. Where can we look?
There we go. Well, if we're looking online, if you're here, you probably are already part of a group or secret group on Facebook. There's Reddit, there's Discord, there's Meetup. Oh my gosh, if you haven't, now I know with COVID, Meetup has probably not been as popular, but now that things are kind of subsiding and we're all getting back to regularly scheduled lives, look on Meetup to see if there are, groups in your area where you can actually connect to people. You can meet them online, but then connect with them in real life. So that's a really good place to start.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Also, too, is TikTok. TikTok
Yep.
is unbelievable these days for what it is sharing for the later in life community. Visibility matters, and there are a lot of great TikTok, what's the name I'm looking for, Barb? Influencers, TikTok that appear regularly.
You're
So
on there.
yeah, I'm on there. Barb's on there. I'm new on there. So if you don't follow either one of us, follow us. Barb's a lot more fun than I am. I'm a little
Oh,
bit
sure.
more instructional. But follow us. And the thing is, there's a lot of good content going out there, and seeing day in and day out content of queer women talking about queer things is important for coming out later in life. The second way to
Mhm.
do it, if you're a sporty girl, and even if you haven't been a sporty girl up to this point, but there are a lot of adult leagues out there. There are a lot of adult LGBTQ leagues. Okay, I'm gonna cliche of all times, play softball. If you play softball, you will find lesbians.
League of
If
our own.
you
Whoop, whoop.
there are adult soccer leagues, adult rugby leagues. If you're strong enough and brave enough to play rugby, you will find a lot of queer women there. Get on the water. Kayaking is a huge queer sport. A lot of lesbians, a lot of LGBTQ people are kayakers. There's also basketball leagues. There's tennis leagues. There's also what's really big now. What's the word I'm looking for?
The
The
frisbee, there's the frisbee leagues that are super
yeah.
popular,
Mhm,
and disc
mhm, mhm.
golf, that's another one.
So try to, join a sports league. And I know for our introverts out there that sometimes that's like really scary to do. But what I found from the clients I work with that define themselves as introverts, finding one thing that they do that can support their new queer life is super important, and it's really helpful. So if you are a sporty gal or a sporty person who's always wanted to play in something, like I honestly would love to play. I'm going to have to do the mature league, but I would love to play in a kickball league. I always loved playing kickball when I was little. I think that would be fun. And that's something I would consider doing now. What are some other suggestions,
You
Barb?
should
What's
do
the next?
that. Oh
I
my goodness.
know.
Well, you know what else us queers are good at?
What is?
The arts.
Yes. So talk about
Hello.
that.
Oh my goodness. If you want to find queer people, look no further than the arts section. We're talking community theater. We can talk about joining a band, joining a choir, choral singing, which is actually been studied to show that makes people happier. Like people who do choral singing are happier. Visual arts. Are you good at drawing? Are you good at painting? Are you good at sculpture? Do you want to try some pottery? Volunteering at a gallery or at a museum,
Mhm.
going to an open mic. I've made so many friends at I play guitar. You didn't know that about me, but going to open mics or slam poetry nights.
Mhm. Mhm.
So good. Creative writing. That's
Mhm.
another big one. So anything to do with dance. Get
Yeah,
down to
I know.
dance.
So if you are in a larger city, sometimes they'll have dance lessons for queer couples. That is a great, if you're not a couple, but they also, if you are a couple, that's a great thing to do with your partner. But if you're not a couple, they may have queer dancing just, and you'll couple with people to
Yep.
like learn salsa or something like that. So it is really sort of an intentional step to step out of your comfort zone,
Mhm.
and when we step out of our comfort zone, we have a little bit of a fear going on. But the only way we are able to get to the next step is really to sort of face our fears. And
Mhm.
so showing up as a queer person can be really scary sometimes. But I find that people are so glad to have people come to any of these events. They're like, yeah, welcome. My wife says, she's always like, I like for me, she goes, when I see somebody come out later in life, she goes, great, because we need more people in our community. And she's always very excited to welcome them. Um, then, there is the business side. Now, if you're an entrepreneur
Mm.
or you're somebody who has their own business, if you are queer, joining an LGBTQ business group. There is an LGBTQ Chamber of Commerce. Eventually, if you keep going with it, you can certify your business as queer owned, which is, there's a
How
whole
cool.
thing with that. Yeah, which is really good because of diversity spends. That's a whole nother subject. And if you want to know more about that, you can ask me later. But the thing is that you can find other queer people in your community. A lot of times, like our LGBTQ chamber here in Nashville, they do they call it brewing up business. They do it once a month, and they give you free food and drinks, and you go meet other people that are helping the queer community through business.
Mhm.
Um, and then also too, there are local pride committees. So if you now, the nice thing about pride committees is, even if you live in a super small town, there is sometimes a pride committee. So join the pride committee. And I know, like, some of you are not out, and some of these, like, I'm sure makes you feel like, oh my God, I couldn't do that. And I guess my suggestion would be is pick the one that you feel most comfortable with,
Mhm.
and just show up as yourself and enjoy it. If you are a little further down the line, it might be a little easier,
Mhm.
but all these, like, it's the thing is that when you're coming out, for most people, there's always the exceptions. It's one step at a time. So we are giving suggestions here from people who are like, oh my God, I think I might be gay, to people like, yeah, I know I'm gay, but I need to build
Mhm.
my community. So may not be appropriate for everybody on every stage of the journey, but we're trying to give you some ideas no matter where you are on this journey.
Oh, for
And
sure. And if you pick something that is already aligned with your interests, if you're an
yeah.
entrepreneur, that's already aligned with your interests to go and join the Chamber of Commerce. So go do that. If you play an instrument or if you like to sing, go do that. It's just it will help to smooth that transition as well. You
Mhm.
talked just a minute ago about how like scary it can be to step outside of your comfort zone. That's where growth happens.
Right. Absolutely.
Right? And if you're coming out, if you already have come out, you've already done the scariest part,
Mhm.
don't you
Mhm.
think? Like,
Absolutely.
so
One of the things talk about my own coming out journey, like, it has made me absolutely fearless. Like, I'm gonna tell you, before I came out, I don't know if Barb feels this way, but I would have never done a Facebook Live in a billion years. But
mhm,
I'm fearless now. I've done the hardest thing I ever thought I could do. And it
mhm,
really was more about, yes, it was about coming out, but it was also divorcing and all the other things that I did in this coming out journey.
yeah,
And it's really made me fearless. And so
mhm.
I never could have imagined 7 years ago, if you said, Emery, I want you to do a Facebook Live, I probably would have, like, absolutely not. Now I'm like, okay, I'll do one.
Courage is infectious.
Right.
And
Courage is
it
infectious.
goes into other I tell you, and this was like a huge thing for me because I spent my entire life, like, terrified to drive a car. I did not have a driver's license until I was 46 years old. And that was after I came out. And I really think that walking through the fire and doing something I was absolutely terrified, actually multiple somethings, because it wasn't just coming out, it was moving away, it was being apart from my kids part-time, it was, telling the people who are most important to me, switching jobs because that wasn't aligned with what I was doing at the time and coming out and it became very uncomfortable at my workplace. I had a whole bunch of stuff, areas where I had to be brave. Learning to drive was the next step. So you can really accomplish great things, and yeah, it's a snowball effect. It's actually pretty marvelous thing. So you've
Well, and
already
Yeah, and it's like, the thing is I started helping people coming out later in life because I just saw all the struggles in the Facebook group, and I have a background in caregiving, professional caregiving. I'm a chaplain, but I also am a bereavement counselor, and I saw all these griefs in this group. So I created this little side hustle that has turned into a business. And
Yep.
like in a million years, when I came out, I didn't think that that was going to happen. But it was really like, first of all, necessity, because I didn't want to work as a chaplain anymore. I didn't want to work with people who were dying anymore.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
it was like, I've got to create something for myself. And then the pandemic happened, and my other business, which believe it or not, was a photography event business because my wife is a photographer, sort of tanked. And so I was like, okay, I've got to do something. But I don't think I could have done this without the experience of in challenging my fear and like learning to deal with fear, because fear is just a feeling. That's all it
It
is.
is, and it is never too late to
Absolutely
confront
not.
that fear. It is
Mhm.
never too late to exceed your or to break down those walls and your own boundaries that you put up for yourself, to break out of that and try something new. There's no like statute of limitations, time limit. Oh no, I'm too old to do this. No, you're not. So we can wipe that one right off the board right away.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So people are asking, Barb, to drop the chats and the
Mm.
links in the chats. So could you do that right now? And
Yeah,
while Barb
sure.
is doing that, I'm going to give you one more suggestion. So if you are passionate about LGBTQ rights, and you see all the things that are happening in our country right now and feel heartsick about what they're trying to do with trans children, there is a lot of organizations that do a lot of wonderful legal work. So volunteering for like Lambda Legal, which is
Yes.
in the United States. I'm not sure if it's in Canada, but Barb's a Canadian. Can't you tell? Um, she's so lovely. Um, but like Lambda Legal, Human Rights Campaign, a lot of my clients have done have uh, volunteered for the Human Rights Campaign, which is HRC. It's known as the HRC. And if you don't know what it is that they fight for LGBTQ rights. It's okay if you don't know what it is, because when I remember the first time my wife mentioned it, she said HRC. I said, what's that? So it's okay. This is a new thing. There's a lot of new things we're learning. And there's
Mhm.
also GLAD. There's a lot of uh, LGBTQ centers. In the workbook, you will find the name of Centerlink, which is it gives you the list of all the LGBTQ centers in the country. So you might be able to find one, but near you. So the last thing we want to talk about too is finding mutual support groups. That is
Mhm.
something that Barb and I do together. I started our mutual support groups about, as I said, in 2018 was the first one I ran. It was a very tiny little group with 6 women. And now I have run a bunch of mutual support groups. And finding a mutual support group, whether it's mine or anybody else's, is really, really important. And I know a lot of times people are hesitant to do this, but there are some really, really good reasons why why it's important to find a mutual support group. The first thing is that it's safety. I
Yeah.
work really hard to keep my mutual support groups safe. I have been running them for 20 years now. My goodness, not queer ones. Before that, I ran grief ones. I've run a lot of different. I used to work in a IOP, which is an intensive outpatient for people in recovery. So I really foster safety in my groups, including talking about things like what's said in the group stays in the group, talking about crosstalk, talking about connecting with other people. So
Mhm.
there are some really good reasons to join a mutual support group. And one is safety. What are some of
Yeah.
the other ones, Barb?
Well, and I will just underscore here, it's not just the safety, like that we've created a safe space where, you can talk freely without other people seeing you. And you do a brilliant job of holding space for people, but it's also safety within the group. Those groups are so respectful.
Mm-hmm.
There's some really clear guidelines, things we do and don't say. You can speak openly but respectfully, so you can really truly share those real feelings in the support group. At least I'm speaking about your online
Mm-hmm.
secret group specifically. You can share very liberally, and it's all done in an environment where there's a lot of mutual respect, so no judgment,
Mm-hmm.
whatsoever. Um, the other thing too is, like, once you get into those support groups, you seeing other people's experiences will amplify your own.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what I mean by that is you're going to see yourself in these other people. And sometimes that is a pathway to much greater clarity. You can't
Mm-hmm.
always see your own problem, because if you're trying to read it and it's right in front of you like this, you're too close to it. But if you look at it from this perspective, a little bit farther away, and you can see it in somebody else, you go, oh, and then draw the line between their experience and yours. And suddenly
Right.
things seem a lot clearer.
Right. And that's the thing, is that, yes, I create these spaces so people can have places to go and talk about this very challenging experience. But honestly, a lot of times the best learning comes from other group members, because the way my groups work is that we
Mhm.
start from, I think I might not be queer. I mean, I think I might not be straight,
Yeah.
to all the way, I'm divorced, I'm out, I'm or I've gone through this. I may have been single my whole life, but
Mhm.
I'm out now and I am living my most authentic life. So it's a very wide span of people with a wide span of experiences. And I also work really hard in those groups to make sure people connect with these other people. And I'm
Mhm.
really starting to give people challenges now, because I really want them to have the opportunity to make friends within the group. So one of the techniques that Barb and I use when we are running these groups is breaking down into meeting rooms, and so breakout rooms on Zoom. So that one-on-one connection with another person and sharing your story with them is so important. Um, Another
Totally.
thing we do in the support groups is we do a lot of teaching.
Mhm.
There's some weeks we do focus on some of the things that is important for this later in life journey. So, for example, last month in November, we talked about, or maybe it was October, we talked about the inner critic a lot, and like
Mhm.
learning to silence the inner critic. And we are
Mhm.
always creating content for our people who are in the Lotus Group Coaching Program, so
Yeah.
that they have resources, where we are like seriously constantly doing
Oh,
that.
totally. And meditation, mindfulness exercises.
Mhm.
There's always something getting cooked up for the group that helps sort of propel them towards more self-awareness and more perspective, and
And
it's fun.
um, and also too, I really believe in the power. So now I'm going to get a little woo woo for a couple of minutes with y'all. I have spiritual woo, so I'm going to embrace it. A couple other things that happen too is that there's a higher vibration when we get people together. So
Yes.
when it's just us by ourselves, we feel struggling and alone. But when all of a sudden you're with 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 other women that are going through that experience together, there
Mhm.
is a vibration to it.
Mhm.
And with the higher vibration that is happening, then change happens.
Mhm.
And also too, sometimes I like, whether you call it source power, universe, God, divine orchestration, I think sometimes things happen in the group that I feel like that was amazing that happened. It was just that
Oh,
the right person at the right time said the right thing, and like you can see someone's face just change. And so
yeah.
I really love that about the groups, that like you just sometimes I'm a if people who know me, I'm a pretty free form group person because I believe so much in the power of the group. So there is structure, but not like crazy structure. And so when that divine orchestration happens, it's pretty really cool. And that's just
It
out
is.
of my hands. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally. We've seen that serendipity happen within the group,
Yeah.
and it's just magical when that does happen. So now
Mhm.
we see we have just to redirect your focus to something different. There we have a comment here wondering about whether the group, the coaching group, is centered around a particular location, and I mean, there's group members from all over, right?
Right. And we are on Zoom. So we do group on Zoom. And so right now, everybody's from the US and Canada. I have had people from Australia, Hong Kong, New Zealand, England. But right now we are US based in Canada, and we meet. There's a bunch of information in that workbook. So I don't want to take up time going through the workbook. But like going through all that right now. But if you would like to get the workbook from us, we would be happy to give you that, and it will tell you all the information that you need to know. And also, too, we are hitting the 1:30 time, and we promised you 30 minutes. And of course, we have too much to say because, we always have too much to say.
Yeah, there you go.
So get the workbook.
Yes.
There are a lot of other tips about Lotus about mutual support groups, whether it's mine or another person. I so believe in the power. I'd love to work with you, but if it's not, if you want to work with someone else, great. Please go do it. Mutual support groups work, and they are powerful. And so that's why I talked a well-run one. is powerful. And so there's some things to look about. So what I would suggest is read the tips in the workbook.
Yes.
And go to a mutual support group and make sure all of those tips are being met. Safety, confidentiality, space for everyone to share their story, a facilitator that drives the conversation, but also gives people to space to share their stories, reining in people that are taking up too much space in the group, because sometimes that happens in groups. And so, that is using that as a tool to evaluate another group would be also super helpful as well. So any last thoughts, Barb?
My last thought is, go to that workbook, look at all of those points and all of the things that we talked about for finding community. But the first step before you can do any of those things is get out of your comfort zone. Get out. This is your eviction notice from Comfort Land. Get out of there. Go be brave. Tap into your courage and go and find your people. And it will make all the difference in the world.
It will. So tomorrow, what are we discussing? Do you remember?
What are we discussing tomorrow? I think is it divorce? Is that
I think it's
our next
divorce.
one?
I think tomorrow is divorce. Wednesday is internalized homophobia. Thursday is
Grief.
grief.
Thursday's grief.
Grief. Please come to that. I know it's like a scary subject, but please come to it because it's really important. And Friday is finding your joy. And Saturday is getting through the holidays. So we have workbooks for getting through the holidays. We have workbooks that we have for this particular week. Please get them if you don't have them. This will go up on YouTube. Tell your friends within the group if they haven't made it and you've enjoyed it. Let them know that it will be on YouTube and they can follow me on YouTube. And if you really, really loved us, we are going on TikTok now.
Yeah.
So TikTok Live, we've never done it. We're going to talk about the same thing. And we're going to figure out how to do TikTok Live. So that's going to be an experience. So join us if you can. We will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
All right. See you tomorrow.